Hi, so I'm going to show you now how to save this file for print and then how to step it up on a sheet for printing. So we're going to start by saving a press quality PDF. PDF file is the kind of standard file or file type you would send to a printer. They'll often ask you for a print quality PDF. It's a good idea if you're going to send something like this to be printed at a commercial printer, just contact them first and ask them, how would you like me to set up this file? Because different printers will want different things. So just double check, do you need bleed? Do you need trim marks? Do you want my InDesign file, my PDF? Like, they'll let you know exactly what they need from you. So I'm going to show you the most common thing that would probably be asked for. I did work in the print industry for over 10 years, and this was what we would ask customers for. So this is just important for you to know, have an idea about how to do, or if you even want to take this to Officeworks or somewhere and have them printed, this is how you could save your file. Cool, so File, Export. Choose a place that you want to save it. I'm going to keep it here. Make sure you're selecting Adobe PDF Print as the format. Save. This will bring up your settings for the PDF. So in the top, we're choosing high quality. You can leave all this as default, leave it as pages, and then this might not be ticked on yours, but view PDF after exporting is a nice option. Have that ticked, and that means once the PDF is saved, it'll automatically open for you to have a look at. You don't have to go and find it to open it. So that's quite good. And then over here to marks and bleeds, we're going to tick crop marks. And we're also going to save it with bleed, which is not bleed marks. Bleed marks, they put another row of crop marks in pretty much. And they're not very helpful for anyone. So don't tick bleed marks. The bleed setting is down here. Use document bleed settings, tick. And because we've put 3mm bleed on our document setup, it'll be here. Let me just cancel this quickly. If for any reason that says 0, it'll be in File, Document Setup. That's where your bleed settings are. So you can pop your 3mm bleed in here. Make sure that you've got any images that go to the edge of the page go all the way out to the bleed line, that red line. Okay, let's go back into export. So we've ticked crop marks. You can put page information. I quite like putting page information because at the bottom of the PDF, it'll put a timestamp of when you saved this file as well as the file name. And then if you had a multi-page file, like we've got 2 pages here, for this invitation, you'd likely just have 1, or you can choose which page you want to save the PDF as. It will put that information, like it'll put the page numbers in that page information section. Use document bleed settings, tick, make sure it's got 3mm. And then also change the offset here to 3mm. It should be the same as your bleed. It's very weird that the coding doesn't automatically make the offset the same as the bleed, but pretty much what that means is if you don't offset your trim marks or the crop marks come into the bleed or like overlap the bleed, which makes the bleed useless. So it's usually okay, just leave it on the default. If you forget, it's not the end of the world, but an extra nice thing is to offset that by 3mm. The area, I'm going back to general at the top, the area to select a page is here. So if you wanted just page 1, you could type in 1 here. Or if you wanted 1 to 2, you could put 1 to 2. Say if you had like 5 different pages in here, you just wanted the first 2 pages. Or if you wanted page 3, or whatever it is, you can type that in there. I'm going to choose page 1. And then export. Let me just quickly show some printers might ask you for press quality, that's in here. But like I say, just ask the printer. If they just say print quality PDF, this is what they mean. Okay, so because I had that box ticked to open or view after exporting, this is opened in Acrobat for me. If I hit Command 0, it'll go to the whole screen. So you can see your whole design here. That's that page information on the bottom. It tells me the file name, it's an InDesign file, page 1, and then the date and the time that it was saved. can also see your bleed and crop marks here. So these lines here are the crop marks, and then the bleed, see how the bleed goes past the crop mark here? That's what we want. If your bleed lines up with the crop mark, or you've got like a white space between the crop mark and your design, that means you've forgotten to tick use document bleed settings, or you've forgotten to put bleed on the InDesign file. Okay, so now we've got our A5 invitation with bleed and crop marks, and I'm going to show you how you would put this onto an SRA3 sheet. So SRA3 is a bit bigger than a standard A3 sheet, and that's helpful because if it was just A3, so you can fit 4 A5s onto an A3 sheet. So if you fold an A4 in half, that's A5, and if you double an A4, had 2 A4s next to each other, that's an A3. So we're going to fit 4 A4s. Hopefully that makes sense. We're about to I'll show you, so it'll have a visual. But if you don't have an oversized A3, if you only had A3, you can't fit your bleed and your trim marks, and most printers won't print to the edge of the paper. So if you put your A5s onto your A3 page, actually I'll show you what happens. So let's open a new document. We're going to make it A3. Change this to millimeters, double check it says 297 by 420. I'm turning facing pages off, even though it doesn't matter much. And then, like for this, it doesn't matter much. 0 margin, create. Just quickly, 297, 420, 1 column, no margins. And that is our A3 page. So from here, I'm going to place in that print PDF that I just created. So I'm clicking, let me show that again. I went very quickly. So click and let go. That will place it at 100%. I know last time we were clicking and dragging. You don't want to do that for this because you want it to be the size that you designed it. So click and let go. Now you'll notice this placed with no trim marks or bleed. Where did my trim marks and bleed go? So I'll show you where those settings are. Go into File, Place again, because we want to show the crop marks. Tick Show Import Options. Then select your file. Then open. And then here you can see my settings were set crop to trim. I think the default is bounding box visible layers. If you change it to media, that would also be appropriate for this. But if you place it in and you're losing, like you don't have your trim marks, this is how to fix that. Go okay. This is also where you can have the choice of which pages you want to place in. So if you want to place in page 1 or page 2, you can do that here, or all of them. Because when you place, the default is just to place the first page. But if you had multiple pages to place, that's how you would do that. We're just doing that one page, so that's okay. Click and let go. And then we've got our trim marks and our bleed on here. So remembering this is an SRA3 sheet, what I'm going to do is sort of a margin or guidelines to split this into 4. So you could go into columns and then put 2 columns. We don't want any gutter. Go okay. But then for the rows, we want to do create guides. So layout, create guides. I'm going to put 2 rows and then 0 gutter. And then okay. And that puts a guideline in automatically right in the center. So you could also do that for the column line if you wanted to. Just go into create guides. You can do the column and the row at the same time. And then when I try to fit this into this quarter of the page, you'll see it's bigger, right? Because this quarter of the page is exactly A5, and I've got bigger than A5 because I've got my bleed and my trim marks. So even though I could line this up so it lines up the edge, most printers won't print to the edge of the page, so you'll lose some of this design on the, or part of this color on the edge. Another thing you could do if you only have A3 paper is just scale this down a little bit. Let me hold the shortcuts properly. So if you're printing this at home and you only had A3 paper, just make it a little smaller to fit it. And that would work okay as well. But if we wanted to have it exactly A5, we're going to use a bigger sheet. So I'm going to change my page size document setup to SRA3. Now it's not an option by default, which is strange considering InDesign's all about print documents. I can tell you the measurements are 320 by 450. That is the size of an SRA3 sheet, which is what most commercial printers use, that size paper. Go OK. And that has resized my document. You'll notice here there's a guide at the top and the bottom. That's from when we created this middle guide. It also puts a guide on the edge of the page. You can just delete those. We don't need them now. Now this will still be a little bit bigger than this quadrant, but I'm still going to be able to fit all my crop marks. So what I'm doing is clicking and dragging to make the frame fit. So I'm just lining it up with the edge of the page and those guidelines. And then to center it, right click, fitting, center content. We'll put the content in the middle of the frame. Boop. So it's very slight, but it did do that. Okay, so now I've got space to put the other 3 copies. So I'm going to click and drag, hold the Alt key will duplicate it, hold the Shift key will keep it in line, and then let go. So that purple line, it means it's in the center of the column. That's all that smart guide is. And then click and drag to select both of these. I'm going to zoom out so I can see more of the page. I'm holding the Alt and the Shift to duplicate and keep in line. Let go, and then I've got 4 on my page. So that's how you can fit 4 A4s with bleed and crop marks onto an SRA3 sheet. If you were sending this to a printer, I wouldn't do this automatically for them. They probably have their own template and their own software that would do this for them, and it probably has a little bit different settings than this. I would just give them the single file, just the PDF with the one page with the bleed and the trim marks, and let them step it up on the sheet. That's what it's called, stepping up or ganging up. It's also called imposition. So the generic term for setting files up ready for print is called imposition. So if you were doing like a booklet and it had to go into, like you reorder the pages differently to create a booklet, that's called a booklet imposition. This is called like a gang up. We're ganging up multiples on one sheet. This would be a 4 up. Yep, so if you're taking this yourself to Officeworks, I'm not sure if they do SRA3, you'd have to double check wherever you're taking it if they do SRA3 sheets. If you're cutting them yourself, this is a great way to do that. So you can see where your cut lines are. But if the printer is going to cut them for you, I wouldn't do this because they probably have preset guillotine settings that are different to how we've set it up here. I won't go into too much detail and confuse you all, but or if you're not sure, you could always send them both, give them the option to do a 4-up one, save on the guillotining charge potentially if you're going to cut it yourself, or just give them the 1-up and let them sort it out for you. So then from here you would save this again as a PDF. So file, you wouldn't send them this InDesign file, you send them a PDF, so export. I'm going to name this the same as before, but then put 4-up. Usually I also put the page size in my design, so I would put 4-up A5, or if you had an A4, you could put 2-up A4, or whatever it is. Save that. And then just select high quality. Don't put any crop marks. We don't need crop marks and bleed because they're already on there from the other PDF, right? So just a regular high quality print. Export. Show the whole screen, and there's your 4 A5 set up on an oversized A3 sheet or SRA3. You could also move these closer together if you didn't want this much space in between, but I've just shown you quickly and given you an idea of how you could set something up for prints. Good job. Thanks very much. See you later.